Welcome to the Fourth Down Experience, the podcast devoted to special teams. Your host of the Fourth Down Experience, former pro free agent, 9-year professional kicking coach out of the Midwest, Coach Chris Husby. Alongside Coach Chris Husby is a former 2-time Arena Bowl champ, 9-year pro kicking coach, repping the South, Coach Brian Jackson.
Hey guys, what's up? Brian Jackson here and Chris Husby on the Fourth Down Experience podcast. And we're excited to have a guest that we have had on the show. He was playing in the IFL at the time. He's been a veteran Arena League kicker for several years. And we were stoked to have the XFL's Seattle Dragons kicker, Ernest Lacayo, back. Welcome back, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Honor to be back on here.
Yeah, how you doing, Ernesto? We are excited to have you on, and kind of like going back to the last interview we had, you've had such a sweet journey in arena football. We're super thrilled that you got that opportunity to play in the XFL. So I guess, how has the experience been so far for you?
It's been great since the first 5 weeks being here. But the moment I've been here for my workout, to getting signed and picked for the job, it's been a dream come true as well. And being able to represent the IFL/arena kickers. It's one of the biggest things I can do for us, and hopefully more guys are soon to come.
So have you been getting a lot of IFL people just supporting you and reaching out and saying you're doing it for us type of thing? What's that support been like?
Yeah, it's definitely been. From all different positions, guys who I played against, other fellow kickers of mine, and at the same time, and other coaches too. So it's it really makes me happy that people are reaching out, and thanking me, and also welcome me also to the league here too, and hopefully inspiring everybody to get a chance too. Because as I defend us every day, I'm at practice or at games, and I tell them hey, there's a lot of talent there, and don't overlook these guys, because even though we're still chasing our dreams in the indoor leagues, these guys can definitely play at this level.
What's been the biggest challenge so far with the slight, kickoff differences or extra points or even the ball or anything? What would have been a few of the adjustments that you've had to make?
Well, not too much on the ball. The only difference I've seen on the ball for guys is the punters. The punters don't seem to get a great hang time on this XFL ball. It seems to be a little bit smaller in diameter in the middle of the ball, but guys aren't getting their foot onto it too much. For kickoffs, it's been great. Adjusting to the rules has actually been a benefit of mine as an arena kicker, because it's all about placement. And obviously, we can't kick the ball past the end zone. And here, it's all about placement. Even though they moved the ball back to the 30-yard line, I think it's great the fact that, in the IFL, we're able to at least do what we want to do with the ball. And it's the same concept here. It just sucks I'm not able to get more tackles like I like to, but we'll work on that eventually with the schemes. But everything else has been great. It's kind of also hard not trotting out there after a touchdown, waiting for an extra point. Sometimes they have to hold me back. They're like, no, we're still kicking. So it's a lonely walk all the way to the other side of the 30 with the kickoff, only 5 minutes after the commercial to do my job.
What's been kind of a fun, different rule element that is kind of fun to see firsthand in the game?
I think it's great what they're doing after the touchdown, that whole 1 point, 2 point, 3 point. It adds another element to the game, especially for the offense. And it's not a gimme. That's the thing. A lot of these teams, including my own, they're trying for these points. And, one thinks like, oh, okay, it's not like the kicking where it's mostly a gimme, a higher percentage rate. Whereas this one, that defense they're not allowing those points to get in. So that's also very exciting, and to see that. Nothing has changed with the field goals and stuff. But on the kickoff, they're really in our face with the cameras and all that stuff. They really want to see how our ball is leading. They're asking us questions here and there, probably questions that have not been asked in, like the NFL, as a kicker, and just because he's out there with the whole unit. But since we're out there on an island by ourselves, it adds a little element. A lot of people are excited. They focus on us on the free kicking. But if I was to say the whole rule change, to me, the most exciting is actually the point after touchdown, the 2, the 3, or the 1 point.
Right. In the arena game, Ernesto, we can wait 2 to 3 tenths of time slower, just because there's no outside rush on the edge.
Right.
Obviously with your training and everything you've been doing for years, what have you had to do with Brock and your snapper? What have you had to do to ensure your out times are still good?
Well, the only thing that, after my workout, I know I was a little bit slow on time in our workout, but one thing I was always taught that if you go to a workout and you have no relationship with the snapper and the holder, you don't want to rush anything, your tempo of that sort. So after working with the guys, I remember being at 1.4 seconds in the arena leagues, and then having to work to that 1.28 to 1.33 range. You want to be safe there. That way you get your get-offs, and it's just a matter of consistent work. And that's something that, I haven't had in a long time in arena, because there's years I've had multiple holders and multiple snappers in one season, whereas now, I get the chance to work day in and day out and create that chemistry with, Brock and Noah, my snappers, who are two exceptional specialists at what they do.
How did the whole experience of you getting called in, and what was the tryout experience like for you?
Well, just coming in for our workout, there was, three guys that were working out for this. And, coming into it, we had 10 field goals after our 10 field goals that we charted. They were all with snap, pull, and kick. So they were observing our ball flight. They were also observing how we warmed up at the same time, our operation time. But they also understood that since we had no relationship with the guys, the odd times were just one of those, okay, with just the fade out, just be aware of it. After that was the kickoff thing, which a lot of guys tend to struggle with, because I think the misconception that we have as we're training outside, going like the Zoner camps, free agent camps, we're trying to kick the ball just straight down the middle, big ball, trying to go as deep as you can. Whereas here, now it's all about, hey, you can't put it in the end zone, that's a penalty, so we have to place the ball inside the 10, inside the 5, to the angle to the corners. So you get to be more creative. Guys get to move around a little bit. And then after that, we get to do onside kicks, and that's where I truly kind of separated myself from the other guys, because onside kicks the bread and butter for us in arena guys, and from the boomerang kick to the high bounce to everything, I pretty much brought everything outside the bag. So just to do that, it's been a great experience just doing that and working into the system, getting into the grind, knowing your counts of when you need to kick a little bit more on certain days, and at the same time making sure that everything is going according to plan. So you're also looking for more with the quality kick. So when I go out to work out, especially tomorrow at our practice, we only have 3 field goals in our field goal period, and they asked if I wanted to do more, but I'm like, realistically in the game, we'll probably get 3. So you want to minimize those reps to make sure you make them all, and that way you get that same kind of motion at the same time, that rhythm to keep going and making sure you're staying perfect with your unit.
You mentioned kickoffs, so when we interviewed Taylor Russolino, who you know, and he was an arena guy for a little bit there, for a few years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago. When we interviewed him, it was like right before the XFL season started. So some of the rules he'd said were just slightly off, but for the most part, everything was the same. But when you're saying that the ball goes in the end zone, I thought it came out as like the 15 or the 25. What happens if you kick it in the end zone?
Well, if you kick it on the fly in the end zone, the ball comes out, I believe, to the 15. Now, if the ball doesn't make it to the 20-yard line, which a couple guys have been doing it, because they try to speed up too much of tempo, and they'll hit like a squib kick, and it doesn't get to the 20-yard line, the opposite of the 20-yard line, that's the worst penalty. If the other team gets that ball on your own, or I would say either plus or minus 45, so it's a huge swing. It's a huge penalty for us. Now, if the ball bounces, let's say, on the 5 or the 2 or the 3, and then goes into the end zone, it kind of acts like a touchback. So if they get the ball on the 5, what you don't want to do is kick it into the end zone. Unless the thing is a great return game, which we haven't really seen based on the new rules. Some guys can do that, but the worst thing you can do on the kickoff is not kick it to the 20. There's been a couple times where guys have missed the ball, and that's the thing. That's the biggest penalty for us on kickoff.
Right. Gotcha. So, have you had to make any tackles yet, or get in there yet? Because
No.
Okay.
No, not yet. I've been waiting. I've been trying to get in there. I know.
Are you encouraged by the coaches? Are the coaches telling you, hey, you need to make sure to get? Okay.
So I'm always I'm making sure I'm the safety back there. But I haven't got that opportunity yet, but I'm still waiting on it. Hopefully not too many as I always do in arena, but we'll see about that.
So obviously, for us, kickers-wise, we're trying to get good film to possibly go to the NFL. If the XFL keeps growing and salary keeps moving up, I mean, there may not be an argument there on going to the NFL. It could be just the XFL, but let's say that the thought is still trying to move up to the NFL. Obviously, if you're allowed to get the hang in the distance, but obviously it sounds like placement is important. Hypothetically, couldn't you just hit like a 2.0 line drive down to like the 2, hypothetically? Because the coverage seems like, talk about that.
So, like in the first game when I played against, when I played at DC, I was still having that mentality, kick the ball nice and high with good hang time and place it down there. Well, that day we had a good, strong headwind where the ball was getting caught in the air. So I started realizing, okay, one of my coaches would always tell me the hang time when I come back to the sideline. But then we went to film, and I was like, you know what, coach, I think it'd be better off with my Philippine coach if we were to hit these balls between 3.8, 3.7, and have a better trajectory on the ball as opposed to kicking it high, leaving it susceptible to the wind and the environment. So it's better off just having a low hang time, like you were saying, and placing the ball and not, letting the environment just take effect of it, because it's going to work. And some guys who have hit the ball a little higher, they tend to mishit it. They get that fluttering kick and they get that penalized. Because that 20 yards, it doesn't seem like it'd be that hard to do, but when you're overthinking and displacement, I think that's where guys are getting messed up, because we're all taught to kick as deep as we want. So that's going to probably affect us when it comes to getting looked at by the NFL. I don't think the NFL should look at it that way. It's like, okay, it's okay, we're just following within the rules.
Right. So your coaches and the XFL coaches, they know the rules, right? So like they're not judging you necessarily if you're hitting a 3-4, 67-yard kickoff. Right. Like I assume that's the mindset, because like now hang time doesn't really matter in this particular game. No one moves until the ball's caught. So like, I mean, for me personally, like if I'm not content, but like if I'm happy, I'm hypothetically kicking in the XFL, making decent money or whatever. Like, obviously NFL is NFL, right? That's a lot of money. But like, still making a decent living. Like, I guess what's the thought process with the XFL kickers? Not necessarily the Dragons, but like, all these guys. Like, you take pictures with all of them, which is so awesome to see, by the way. After the games, it's just so cool to see all the guys. Like, what's everyone's kind of thought process or mindset? Because the hang time doesn't matter. So I would assume it's between the kicking coach or the special teams coordinator and you. But like, what's the thought process of the guys? Are they like, maybe, do I need to kick it 4-1, 4-2 down to like the 5, so that way I'm still getting NFL looks, or what am I doing?
That's a good question. The thing is, that's something that hasn't really come up with any of us that we talk to each one another. But like for example, I was talking to Sergio Castillo this last weekend from Houston, and his thought process as well was like, hey, I'm just trying to hit a low ball, making sure, because he was telling me how the wind was working there, and warm-ups we're both hitting the same ball, kind of that 3.8. Not even a 4-second, but kind of not in between a line drive and a high ball, but we're placing it. But the one thing that what I was doing, and that's helping me a lot, is that I'm placing the ball a lot to the corner. So I'm actually doing a lot more film study and watching his return team is set up in a bunch between the numbers and the hashes, and that's what I noticed. And they gave me that look on the second kickoff. And so what I decided, I was originally going to go down the middle, and I checked it with my coach. I looked over to the sideline. I said, I'm going right. And I placed the ball between the numbers and the sideline, and they helped out tremendously, because if I put it down there, it doesn't matter in the hang time. Now, the moment he touches it, all the coverage, my kickoff coverage team on the right side was able to get off and get it real much quicker. So it's more of a scheme game. But we haven't really talked about, like, hey, what if the NFL comes looking? I think we all understand that they know the rules, they know why we're doing it, and they won't judge us on that. It's no different than when I came here. they knew the rules of the arena game, so they weren't judging me on certain things. They're like, as far as, okay, that's understandable. You're working within the rule and the system that you were in.
That's awesome. That's great for the industry because, Ernesto, you and I both know 10 years ago it was almost like negative if you went arena and tried to think you were going to go back to the NFL. It was just like so hard because there was just such a negative like stigma about us, and that's awesome. And like you said, I mean, you are. I mean, you've been the longest lasting arena kicker to be able to make it back to one of these high end premier leagues, and so it's cool to see the special teams coaches are getting head coaching jobs, and it's also cool to see the special teams coaches are being open minded. Chris?
Yeah, I was actually just gonna ask you that, and then you kind of answered it, Ernesto. That obviously now we're 5 games in with the season. I was going to ask you, how much influence do you feel like you get with the special teams coach? I mean, you gave us a good example there, but do you feel like they really want to listen to what you say and adapt to maybe your style of kicking and what you think you can do?
Well, I mean, coming in here, even though they know that I'm a veteran of the arena game, but I've always been one of those coming from a military family background. I listen to them. It's more of a yes, sir, no, sir. But most of the time, they tell me what to do, and I make sure I do the best of my ability to do exactly what they want to do. Now they work, they see what they're doing. Like, for example, this last week, we started incorporating some fake field goals, and the team didn't realize I can run pretty fast, and they clocked my 40, and I ran a 4.42 the other day. So it was, they were just like, you can run. I'm like, yeah, I used to do track in college as an off-season thing. I still like to do that. And they're thinking, okay, this guy can do more things. When they see my onside kick, they start scheming. So the more I show them at practice, and I don't have to be like, hey, coach, look at me. It's more of they watch everything. Even our player, our director of player personnel, he's watching every position. From guys dropping balls, he's counting everything. If I miss a field goal, he'll let me know that day, hey, you missed one. Or if you missed a couple of them, I mean, that's how guys before a year got cut. They were just not being consistent. And so as long as I'm being consistent within the video room at the same time on the field and listening to what they want to do and applying it to perfection and to the best of my ability, it makes them happy. So that's the way I go about it. I don't like to put too much in my input. Like when they pretty much got in the first practice here, they're like, okay, we want you to do between 1-2-8, 1-3-3. Yes, sir, let's get after it. And so I make that adjustment on myself. And when I can do that over and over again, it makes them happy, and that's all that matters to me.
Ernest, this is kind of a sidebar, just random question here. Obviously in the arena leagues, indoor leagues, whatever level, obviously when the AFL was the AFL Prime, we had good perks and all that. But historically, you would at least get your housing covered, whether it be like an apartment or a condo that you're sharing with other teammates. You typically would get like sponsored coupons for meals, or they would have like planned breakfasts or lunches and dinners, things of that sort. And then depending on the league, you'd get bonuses. Obviously, this is very personal, so I'm not asking you to, and I know you wouldn't tell us, but like you don't have to tell us the personal stuff, but like maybe just in general for people like us or people out there that are listening, even just the facilities and training stuff, etc. Like, what's the XFL like compared to other leagues? Because it's the next thing before the NFL.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much open to talk about that. Everything that we have, at least for the Seattle Dragons, everything is ran here like the NFL. Awesome. They take care of us. We all stay at the same at the hotel. And everything at our hotel in downtown Seattle, from our meeting rooms to our weight room, a huge weight room in a conference room. It's impressive to see how they got all this weight room stuff in there. Everything is here, so we don't have to go very far for anything. From breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I mean, we have food that's cooked for us all the time. So it's very much ran in a good structure, just as well as the NFL. Everyone has their own specific diets, depending on your position. So you have to work within that. As far as the training rooms, everything is at our practice facility, which is the stadium, Memorial Stadium in downtown Seattle, and everything is there. So from perspective of how the XFL, I'm assuming that all the other teams are just like that as well. but the way the Seattle Dragons is being ran, to me, it's the equivalent of what the NFL would be from the organization all the way down to the training room and everything of that sort.
It's like, Wichita, Las Vegas, was Portland one of them? What was the other team? San Diego, Louisiana. Okay, so and no disrespect to any of the teams. Okay, no disrespect to any of those. Even me, just knowing a taste of what you've done. I would assume it's you're like a king, man. This is royal. What's it feel? I would be just hearing a hotel and all the meals and the weight room. It's all right there. It's just treated how's it feel compared to what you're used to with all the other leagues? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've definitely seen my share of ups and downs when it comes to organization. But I would say the Wichita team to me was one of the best organizations I was ever a part of, and they ran everything so well. And it's probably why we were so successful at that time when they were the Wild. But being here, I can really boast about it. But to me, what I tell people, I'm just grateful, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that I went through, because you have to go through those kind of situations to see the ups and the downs of organizations, see how they ran, to truly appreciate what you have now. From shoes, I have never been in an organization where they're like, so what model shoes you want to wear? I'm like, didn't even get that in college, but I'll take this. And it's there the next day. I'm like, this is insane. I've never been part of things like that. Or having the endless amount of footballs. I used to have only maybe 3 or 4 footballs even in arena, and let alone having to go pick up my ball in the stadium somewhere in the Raptors that are lost, to have now I have 7 ball people handing me a ball every time I kick a ball, and it's this is insane. But I'm just grateful, and I couldn't thank God enough for that. But I always tell people, when it's all said and done, when I write my book about arena football and my experiences, you have to talk about those things. Because I know the time when I first met you, when I was in Louisiana, we were fighting for a box of Church's chicken between 2 people. So I was lucky to get the biscuit. So as long as I got the biscuit, I was fine.
Oh man, I remember that.
That's awesome. Well, Ernesto, we got a few fun questions we wanted to ask you. All right.
Of course.
All right. Kicker stats. I could not for the life of me find stats on the leagues on this league for kickers. Is it tracked anywhere, and do you know how kind of you're stacking up?
The stats?
Yeah, kicking stats for the XFL.
So I just recently figured that one out myself, because I was when we travel to practice every day, my punter, he's always letting me know. I'm like, where are you getting stats? So it's on the app. You have to get the XFL app.
Okay.
And then from there, you have to, there's a sidebar, and it gives you that leaderboard, statistics of that sort. You can actually pick between teams of that sort. So that's the only place that I know and I'm aware of that you can get the stats. And as of right now, my team, we, in the special teams, I know we're leading the league as far as kickoff coverage, and that's have to do with a lot of my placement with the ball, that my kickoff coverage team being very aggressive, very smart on what they're doing. And then the field goal, I actually have the lowest amount of attempts at field goals because our offense is struggling. Mm-hmm. And, I don't have that many attempts, so I only have 3 field goals right now with a long of 47. Oh. But you have to get the app to get the XFL stat. That's the only place I've found it so far.
Okay, I'm going to have to look it up then. It'll be fun to see. So, all right, with the new rule changes in the XFL, after you've been a part of 5 games, what 1 or 2 rules do you think could be easily implemented into the NFL, right away, if you could make those decisions, or you could see it happening?
I would say definitely the kickoff rule. It makes it much more safer and more exciting, because we only there's actually been, I think, 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns, and you see the scheme behind it from the reverse and the counters. But it's definitely a lot more exciting just to see that, and also for safety, because at the end of the day, it's all about safety for protecting the players and the concussion rate. So I believe the kickoff is the future of what's going to be happening in the NFL, and that transition to, help out with that. And the other thing, from a kicker standpoint, some of the other guys are like, you know what, extra points were fun, but I believe that rule they're doing now with the 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, I believe that's another rule that they will eventually bring to the NFL, because it's much more exciting.
Nice. Okay.
I would say, to spin off on that, it would be nice to see like anything past 50 or 52 or whatever the magical number is to maybe be like 4 points. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talked about that, actually. I actually spoke to the commissioner just jokingly about that. He's like, that's not a bad idea. So I hope I'm not the one that gets that started, because you're going to start seeing a lot of us have a lot of field goals from that distance. And I'll tell you what, some of these coaches, you know, they ask you before the game, so, all right, what's your range going this way? Oh, going against the wind over here, a stiff 10 to 15 mile an hour wind. I'm like, I'll be good between 45. They're like, okay, so 55 and 60. I'm like, wait a minute. That's not what we just said. So they're not getting that far yet. So, but I can see that being something that they want to add. But we'll see what they talk about. I know that they're talking about changing the ball for the next year, because they're just saying that, okay, this is just like an experiment. And I think the punters you start to notice that the big punters, even my Brock Miller, I've seen him hit great 5-0 footballs with NFL ball. But then the XFL, it's like, okay, there's something here. There's definitely something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been able to kick a couple in some of the trainings, and they're really tough to kick. I'll be honest with you. And obviously, you're used to it now, and you're used to kicking different footballs with all the different leagues you've been involved in. It's difficult to kick, and even Russolino said that he's lost 3 or 4 yards easily just because of the ball itself. And I think it was Russolino that told us that that they're trying to get with other kickers before the games to try to get the balls all rubbed down or trying to get in the same level. I don't know if that got shot down, because now, granted, that was like a week or 2 weeks before the season started. But
no, he definitely got it going. They definitely did that, because now we actually do have kicker balls, and they're held by that red cap guy, and those balls are all worked in. They're brushed down, so we don't see those balls all week at all. We don't even see those balls. They're just the game day balls. They're already perfect the way they are, and so we only see them on game days, and they're perfectly rubbed down, because some of these quarterbacks would be definitely up for Deflategate if they were discovered.
Right. So. Okay, that makes sense, because the ball that we kicked, you know Daniel Bowen, and he bought one for $140 off the internet, and you brought it to the training, and it was brand new. And we all know brand new balls kicking is not fun, but still, even knowing that it's brand new, it's just narrow and tough. But that's awesome that you guys got it to where it's already broken in.
Yeah.
The only benefit of this football that I've noticed is that here that it rains almost every other day. The ball, when it gets wet, we're used to seeing the NFL ball being a little bit weighted, but I think these balls fly great when it comes to that ball being a little wet down. I mean, they travel a lot better than an NFL ball in the rain. That's the only thing I've noticed.
Wow, nice.
What's the atmosphere been like? It seems electric there at the stadium.
Well, I'll tell you that. I mean, that's something that I was chuckling the first kickoff. We had our first game here. I like to take my steps at an angle. I count 12 steps back, but I like to hear myself count. So I'll count like from 1 all the way to 12. It was so loud in our own stadium, and I was like, they're not going to yell or be crazy on the kickoff. I'm the one kicking off. I had to yell my numbers just to hear myself count, and I was like, this is insane. I'm like, this stadium was just, it's designed. I mean, they always talk about how it was designed for the sound, and it's incredible that these fans, they know that they're the 12th man, and they know the difference they can make. Because every team that has come in here has taken time out just to even get the play down. So it's amazing, and the people love football. They love football, but we've seen that almost everywhere in the XFL. I know the LA team is a little bit struggling. It's a tough area for them to even generate fans. But Houston was a great fan base. St. Louis, another place. I felt like I was in my element there, being in a dome and arena. But they were loud as well. They were sold out.
Nice. How do you like Seattle so far? You spend a lot of time in California. What do you like about Seattle?
Well, I'm not much of a city guy, so I stay as much as I can in the hotel. But as far as that, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like an upscale of a Portland. I love that there's an excessive amount of sushi around because I'm a big fish guy. But I do miss the sun of San Diego. It's always cold here, so I don't see too many Latinos in downtown Seattle, that's for sure.
Nice. Cool. All right. Personally, you're a journeyman. You've been playing with a lot of teams. I'm just kind of curious, have you kept your helmet and jersey from every team you've played on? And if so, how many do you have?
Oh, I would love to have kept the helmets, but no. Jerseys, let's see. Nebraska Danger, Louisiana Swashbucklers, let's see. Wichita Wild, Wichita Force, Las Vegas Outlaws, Portland Steel, San Diego Strike Force, and hopefully I can keep this one. So we're talking about 8 or 9 now.
Nice. That's cool. All right, Ernesto, we're here to our capstone question. We asked you this about your career back in the day. Now that you've been in the XFL, if I've tracked it right, you've had 3 away games and 2 home games. So I guess of your 5 games, rank your 5 favorite experiences so far. And I guess you have to repeat 2 of the Seattle home games. But favorite atmosphere so far?
Definitely Seattle. Seattle's been the best atmosphere so far, and I'm not saying that because it's my home crowd. I just think it was amazing to hear that sound. Second would be St. Louis, and I base it all on the atmosphere of the fans and the difference that they make. So I would say, Seattle, St. Louis, Washington, D.C., that first game we played there, it was electric. It was fun. Houston would be my 4th, and then, obviously the 5th one would be still Seattle, but I would say those would be the ranking of my favorite atmosphere so far you've played in.
Nice. In a last little segment we've added, I think since you've been our last interviewee, is we have a challenges question. Oftentimes we're trying to get our listeners to recommend people that we should get on the podcast. In your opinion, who would be a fun interview in your eyes that we should try to get on the podcast?
I think it would be awesome. I mean, he's my roommate. He's a rookie. He's the long snapper from Hawaii, Noah Borden. He's an interesting cat, and as a young guy, I mean, he makes me feel extremely old now, but he's a guy that would be pretty fun to talk to, really humble guy. Another guy would be Brock Miller, the punter, great guy to talk to. Another guy would be Sergio Castillo. I think he'd be a great guy to talk to. Always liked seeing him. He's from the Houston Roughnecks. Let's see, have you guys ever had Scott Daly, long snapper?
Yeah, we had Scott Daly on when he was in the AAF league.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So he's another guy. Austin McGinnis as well. He's a great guy. As far as these are all the specialists that I would like to hear from him. But these guys like Noah Borden, my long snapper, Brock Miller, my punter, they'd be guys to talk to. I think they'd be really insightful about this experience as well. Perfect.
Well, we'll work on those guys.
Ernesto, did you bring Westy to Seattle?
You know what? Now that you mentioned that, so I thought about going back home or getting it shipped up here because the moment I got here, I was thinking they're interviewing me about my journey as far as the career. But the first thing that came out of the reporters was like, "Did you bring your bus?" So I'm like, "I did not bring my bus." So, and then when I get to the first home game, there's a bunch of fans by the kicking net, and they were just yelling and yelling. I try not to pay attention, but for 3 quarters they were just adamant trying to get my attention. So Brock told me, "Hey, you might want to go talk to this lady. She does not stop yelling." So I went over there, and she was like, "Hey, by the way, you still have your bus?" I'm like, "Yes, I still have it. It's back in San Diego." They're like, "Well, I'm the president of the VW Bus Club here in Seattle. We'd love for you to join." I'm like, "Wow,
that's cool.
This would be awesome." So I'm in that club now, and then Coach Zorn, he used to drive a yellow VW Bud to every home game when he played for the Seahawks back in the late 70s and 80s. So he's always talking the air-cooled engine about, with me. So it's always interesting to have those kind of conversations.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had to ask just because, it's been everywhere with you. And so
it's been everywhere, that's for sure.
Obviously Seattle's tough because it's a huge city, but well, cool, man. It's been fun catching up with you again and just hearing what's going on with the XFL, and it's fun to watch you. We're all proud of you, man, and we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us again.
Of course, I always love talking to you guys at the same time, sharing, the stories and everything. So I just hope that a lot of young kickers playing in the arena leagues or in any of the leagues getting to college, they look at this experience and, it motivates them and inspires them because that's what we do it for. I mean, you inspired me when I was a younger kicker, and I kept going as well. And I just hope we can do the same thing for the younger generation.
That's awesome. Hey,
thank you for that. You're definitely doing it, Ernesto. That's for sure. I love it.
All right, man. Well, thanks for being on with us. Appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the season.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right, bro.
Thank you.
Peace.
Yep.
All right, Chris, from the IFL to the XFL. I mean, Ernesto's doing a fantastic job, and really cool to hear all the insights, especially the strategic ways on the kickoffs.
Yeah, I agree. It's, again, fun to follow his journey. I've followed him probably ever since you introduced me to him, and cool to see that he's doing well in the XFL. And again, like you said, the insights, the strategy talks, that's fun to see from an insider's perspective on what it's like in the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy. Like, from watching the game, I remember watching the first Seattle game at home, and they were bragging about how awesome the turnout was for the fans, and it was loud just listening to the TV. So that'd be crazy having to yell, counting your steps back. I definitely could imagine that. So that's good for the XFL brand too, and that has to be kind of an odd feeling, just being back there on an island by yourself, and the coverage team is 50 yards in front of you.
You know what it reminds me of? Just coaching at the high school level. Sometimes you get that kicker that can just blast the ball. We've done that in practice sometimes, where the kicker has to stand 10 or 15 yards back just so you can keep the ball in the field for the returners. So actually, that just kind of brought back some memories of just coaching at the local schools too.
Well, actually, just to spin off on that, that's a good drill for kickers. Guys that are struggling putting in the end zone. I remember before my senior year, I was kicking off from the 30 because the NFL changed it to the 30. And so I was thinking, all right, well, I'll be kicking off from the 35 my senior year in college. So I'm just going to start kicking off from the 30 because it looks 5 yards further, but it feels like it's 10 yards further because it's just farther away.
Yeah.
And then I did that all summer. And then once fall camp came, I went back to the 35, and I was like, man, this kind of looks close. So that might be something that high school kickers want to try out, is maybe start kicking off from the 35, just to get that visual perception down when you get back to the 40.
Yeah, that's a great idea for a new drill for those guys. Awesome. Well, all right, guys. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for your weekly support, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Fourth Down Experience. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fourth Down Experience.